Robinhood announcing just a few minutes ago that it has agreed to acquire cryptocurrency exchange Bitstamp. Joining us right now to talk about this news and so much more, Vlad Tenev. He's the Robinhood CEO and co-founder, and it's great to have you at the table this morning.
Thanks for having me.
So let's walk through this deal, and then I want to get into meme stocks and everything that's going on in the markets right now.
Sure.
But what does this do in terms of what you're doing with crypto and everything else?
Yeah, it's really three things that got us excited. One is this is an international business, and it accelerates our plans for international expansion, particularly in crypto. Second, it brings an exchange to Robinhood, and we've been thinking for a long time that the world could use a Robinhood exchange. We have a lot of ideas about how we can improve upon that. And as we talk to our market makers, we see there's a clear need for another player in the market. And then the third, institutional business. This allows Robinhood to enter a new business, serving market makers and other institutional customers. And that's something that's very exciting for us.
So what does a Robinhood exchange look like? And what does this say, or does it say anything about regulation in crypto in the U.S. versus elsewhere outside of this country, and where you think the growth opportunity is?
Yeah, the business is global, Bitstamp that is.
Right.
It's Europe-based, and as you guys probably know, Europe, we make fun of us Europeans. I could say us Europeans because I'm American and European, lead in regulation. And in this particular case, MiCA, which is the crypto asset regulation, is going live. So there's an established regulatory framework, and unfortunately, Europe is a little bit ahead in this regard, but I don't think the U.S. is too far behind. I think that it's always kind of darkest before dawn, as they say, and you're seeing some positive signs with the EP.
This will serve, though, foreign customers, if you will, meaning American customers will not be able to necessarily use some of these services, right?
Well, again, I think it gets a little tricky with the institutional business. A lot of these customers are based globally and have offices around the world. We haven't yet gotten to the point where we're going to discuss the details of exactly how the integration is going to go, but we do anticipate it serving global customers.
The reason I ask is there's a staking business, and as you know, staking right now is a hot topic in Washington. Coinbase is in the middle of a bit of a brouhaha. That might be a polite word for it. So I'm just trying to understand how you're thinking of keeping the business, to the extent that any of these businesses have to be separated for now.
Yeah, I mean, we've already had to go down that road. So we launched Solana staking for customers in the EU, but given the regulatory environment here, we've been unable to launch that product for customers in the US. There are differences in asset listings between the EU and US. So, I mean, we're going to have to continue doing that as we expand the business with the exchange.
Okay. Can we talk about the roaring kitty of it all? What do you make of what's happening right now?
Look, I think for us, it's an opportunity to show how much we've grown since 2021, since the first of the meme stock frenzy incidents. And I think the really interesting thing is that these events have really been starting in the overnight sessions.
Right.
So Sunday night, where pretty much the only game in town is Robinhood if you want to trade stocks. I just announced yesterday that we passed over 20 billion in cumulative volume in 24-hour market, and that's been growing really, really quickly. So not only is there this new element where we can continue to kind of differentiate ourselves as the leaders in innovation and technology in trading, but we can also show just how the reliability of the platform has improved since we've gone public and in the past 4 years.
What do you make of those who say that what's happening with this roaring kitty situation is just another, is an example or a mockery of some sorts of what the markets are supposed to be, that they're supposed to be sort of values driven in some, there's got to be some metrics that make some sense, and that we're into meme land all over again.
Yeah, I mean, I try to stay away from sort of like passing judgment on any particular style of investing and trading.
But I'm asking you to pass some judgment because there's got to be, you must have a view about this.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I consider myself sort of a long-term buy and hold investor. But Robinhood itself is a neutral technology platform.
Right.
We believe that any product that's available to institutional investors, and actually probably more, like a broader set of products. I think the accreditation rules need to be looked at, and those are overly restrictive too. But if an institutional investor has access to a product, retail should also have access to it and have the same abilities to trade as institutionals, as long as they're suitable and pass all the relevant checks.
A number of lawyers and others come on the broadcast in the past couple of days because there's been reports as it relates to Roaring Kitty that, for example, Morgan Stanley, which now owns E-Trade, one of your competitors, is thinking, should this guy be a client? Should we have him even on the platform? And is the SEC going to be looking at this? And is he communicating with people on private subreddits or on text messages or WhatsApp with other people? Do you think, and so the reason I'm mentioning this is there's some people who look at that and say he individually needs to be looked at in some special way, but other people say he's doing what everybody on Wall Street's been doing forever. How do you sit on that? Because thinking about Robinhood and what Robinhood's supposed to mean.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any secret information more so than what you guys have and what you're seeing on social media. I do think that there's a lot of new tools that the regulators have to monitor trading activity. I mean, the consolidated audit trail, they can sort of see more information. A lot of these have been implemented in the past couple of years. So I would imagine that they're seeing something that hasn't been revealed yet, and they're investigating. But again, I don't really have any insights that are special there.